17th of June, Rabbi Furst, Pierke, Avos.
Very good. As we mentioned, this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here at Yeshiva. Tzama Nafshi Yerushalayim Care of Zoom. We are in our first year this morning, Pirkei Avos, the sixth parak, the Mem Ches Devarim Torah Niknas Behem, and we're learning about in Sif Cotton over here, Kuf Aleph, Lo Megis B'Talmud. A person should not be prideful in his learning or through his learning. Now, so we're being taught. It's not to say that he should not be prideful because of his learning. Why is that? That's not a virtue. That's just the avoiding a tremendous shortcoming, right?
Mm-hmm. I think all the things you've said, I'm not too sure, but it occurred to me that perhaps that all the things you've said that not to be prideful of is they're all negative things, not doing. And so I would assume that if you do something good, you can be prideful of that.
Right. So
you can be proud that you drive properly, that you don't have accidents, that you're a good driver. Be proud of that. That's
right. So
but
yeah, but right. We have another mimer over here. One second. There's another mimer here in the the second parish. In the second pair, we learned about one second. Right. So there's a mimer in the second parak, says here, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai kibul mehila v'shamai huayameh. He would say, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai would say, Im lamadet Torah harbe. If you learn a lot of Torah, al taksik toivel atzmo. Don't give yourself credit. You learn a lot of Torah. Don't give yourself credit. Why? The kaknetzarta. This is for the reason why you were created. You were created for this. So don't think that you're learning a lot of Torah. You have anything to give yourself credit over, because that was what you were created for, right? So even if he's and here he's doing something very good. He's learning a lot, and it's also in the same vein as we're discussing now, that we're being taught a person shouldn't be prideful over his learning. He may feel that he's doing quite a lot. He's doing very good with his learning. He's maybe even helping people, teaching people, and he's doing quite a lot with his learning. But no, don't think that that's what you're being taught about here. That's not a milah which is going to help you acquire Torah, right? If a person is going to be prideful over his learning, there's certainly going to be a terrible shortcoming which will prevent him from learning Torah, will prevent him from actually acquiring Torah, because the Torah and Gaiva, they don't mix. Torah and Gaiva don't mix, right? Rav Chaim Volozhiner says in his Sefer Ruach Chaim on Pirkei Avos, yeah, he says that the Torah the Torah flows to a person. Let's start it from the beginning. The Torah flows, it's based on Chazal. The Torah flows to a low place, just like water. Just like water flows to low places, right? Torah also flows to a low place, to a low person, right? So, and the more that a person is humble, not prideful, right, the more Torah he will be able to receive, right? And he gives a mashal. Let's say you have two vessels, you have two cups, right? You have two cups. You got yourself a cup right over here, two cups, right? One cup. So that we have one cup over here, and let's say its walls are, as I say, paper thin, right? Paper thin. And then you have another vessel, which its walls are an inch thick, right? They happen to be the same size, the same dimensions, right? Meaning circumference and height and width, breadth, right? But one has walls which are paper thin, and one has walls which are an inch thick. So which is going to hold more? The vessel, the cup that has the paper thin walls, because it has less space taken up by its walls, and therefore it can contain more. So he uses this as a mushal. The person who has less gaiva, right? He has less walls between him and a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? So the less or amount of walls that there's less mechitzas, intervening substances, intervening thoughts, intervening feelings and character traits, the less that he intervenes between him and a Kadosh Baruch Hu, the more he's going to be able to receive from a Kadosh Baruch Hu in terms of his Torah. So likewise, just like that thick-walled cup will not hold as much as a thin-walled cup, likewise, a person who is humble, he will be able to have more Torah than the person who's not humble, right? So, but that in itself is not being a trait. Simply, as he says, puts it over here, it's simply a monea chesoron noira. It's simply a avoidance of an awful shortcoming. Okay, let's continue on. Vim Kain.
Okay, ואם כן, מה זה שבח בחיוביו, אלא, זה פרח מילת
Ella
גס?
perish, Ella perish.
מילת גס.
It means a perish gas, right? So you have to explain what it means, because it says lo megis betalmudo. You shouldn't megis libo. You shouldn't megis libo betalmudo. So what does that mean? Chazal are using an extremely specific expression here. Lo megis libo betalmudo. A person shouldn't megis. So what does it mean megis? Let's see how he explains. What does it mean megis? And based on gas. Now gas, you should know gas. It usually means something which is, if it's a noun, it's something which is massive, has mass to it. Gas is something what we might be equivalent to the English word mass, right? So mass doesn't necessarily equal weight. Sometimes you can have things which have mass, and they weigh greater a little depending on other factors, on density, other things that are involved with the physical composition of various different materials. But you have the concept of gas. So what does that mean? Kamo, shelibo gaspo. Oh, so that's a more in Sota. Libo gaspo. What does it mean, libo gaspo?
Has a big heart.
You did. Oh, so gas here means they understand is that has a big heart, right? So here it could be that lo megis libo batalmud. His heart shouldn't swell. His heart shouldn't swell over his learning. But still, we'll need to explain what that means. But let's continue on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dalad Reish Lamed Deratzela Oimer. It says, it means as follows. Deratzela Oimer means as follows.
Oh, okay. Deratza lomer. Shnayim?
It says base, but it says two. Base means two. Ratzela, it's going to be a muscle. It's going to bring you an analogy over here.
Okay.
Ratzela, base b'nei adam. You have two people. Base b'nei adam. You have two people.
Okay. Hamakirim. I guess it know each other.
Right. Very good.
let's see. Ze, ein ze? No.
Im ze.
Oh,
They
ze,
they
ein
each
ze.
they both recognize each other.
Okay, they both recognize each other. She'ein mit boshishin.
Zem is that. They're not embarrassed one from the other. I mean, libo gasp, he's explaining libo gasp, when it means libo gaspoi, right? It means to say, for example, when you have libo gaspo to somebody else, so it's, for example, the Ratzlam, you have two people that recognize one another and they're not embarrassed one from the next. Meaning they're very familiar with each other. Right? They're very comfortable with each other. Your person wouldn't necessarily do something like how many people in your life would you want to brush your teeth in front of, right? So probably not too many, right?
Right.
So, I mean, why? Because brushing your teeth is personal hygiene. That's, is something which you usually do, in private. And you can imagine there are other certain private things people do that they wouldn't want anybody to see how and what they're doing, simply because it's privacy. People, and why is that? Why should Roy? What do you think? Why should a person feel strange about brushing his teeth in from somebody else? What's wrong? I don't want bad breath. I'm trying to save you from smelling my bad breath. I'm doing you a favor after all.
True.
I remember someone showed me a clip of some president of, I think it was the United States, eating some pizza, a slice of pizza, and trying to make fun of the president. People people think that just because a person's a public figure, they have right to make fun of him, right? So the president was eating a slice of pizza, and they were making fun of him because he was sitting there eating his pizza pie. So, I mean, maybe you should be more careful. Maybe you should be eating pizza in front of people. How'd you like that? Yeah, sort of a picture of the president of the United States taking a lollipop, licking a lollipop,
Yeah.
all day sucker.
Certainly
Excuse me?
doesn't matter.
So yeah, what could be so wrong about brushing your teeth in from somebody? Not the worst thing in the world, no. But for a person you're very familiar with, right? For someone you're very familiar with, maybe close family members, you wouldn't necessarily mind brushing your teeth in front of them. Why? Whatever. Let's say you're in the middle of brushing your teeth and you get someone rings the doorbell, right? You're gonna go to the door in the middle of brushing your teeth. For some reason, most people wouldn't do that, right?
Right.
So yeah. Okay, so that's what he's trying to explain here. He says two people, they're makirim says they recognize each other, they're familiar with each other. She'enim mevayishim zeh mezeh. They're not embarrassed one from the next. Now, what does that mean?
Okay, yeah, let's see. The she'oseh davar she'eino shel tzniut b'fanav.
They're not embarrassed to do something which is not something that sneers in front of the other person. Now, this is a whole big thing here. Meaning, we don't really we see the whole concept of sneers is a very big subject, and unfortunately, a lot of people think it's just something which is relevant to women. That they have to cover their hair, they have to cover their elbows, whatever else it is, all kinds of other things. right? They think that that's what sneers is all about. But no, sneers is something which is really, first and foremost, it's something which is a trait. It's a character trait. It's not something which is, it's only expressed by the clothes that you wear, the behavior that you exhibit, right?
Right.
That's only part of it, right? The main aspect of tznius is what we call, I guess, in English, somewhat we call, I guess, maybe modesty is a good English word, perhaps. I'm not sure if it really does justice to the real word tznius, but for lack of a better word for the present, let's just go with that in the meantime. That it's a trait. It's a outlook on life. It's a behavior based on the outlook that you have towards this, right? So uh so that's something why, again, maybe that'll be part of the answer. What's wrong with you brushing your teeth? I mean, what stops people from brushing their teeth, when they're waiting for the bus? It's a good idea. You got 5 minutes to wait for the bus. So, get out there 5 minutes early and brush your teeth down at the bus stop. Very good. Why not? So people wouldn't want to think of it, wouldn't even entertain the thought of that, even if there was a sink next to the bus stop. There's a water fountain next to the bus stop, right? Sometimes you find there are water fountains next to the bus stops. But you wouldn't think of, you're running short for time. You wouldn't think of brushing your teeth while you're waiting for the bus. Because as it says, that's something which is done in Betzina. That's something done privately, right? Something which you don't do necessarily in public, right? Here also, there are certain things which are not done in public. Okay, let's continue on.
Okay, let's see. Hey, Nun.
Hakanami.
Hachinami de Ka'amar Eino Gas Libo B'Talmudo.
So what does that mean? That means, like, also here it's your heart shouldn't be gas b'talmido. Your heart shouldn't be gas with your learning. Look, that's what he says. Look at the roots of the Omer. She'eno choshuv. There you go.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. So going on, let's see. Rotzalo Marshe no Choshev.
See you. Okay, have a good day.
It's not Ein One. No.
That Rotzla Omer she'eno Rotzla Omer she'eno choshev es atzmo.
Oh wait, Atzmo Kiragil Ama.
Oh, so he should not consider himself kirugel to be familiar with it. He shouldn't be. We're going to have to see we're going to have to see what that means. What it means that he shouldn't be consider himself overly familiar with it. Meaning, I would say like this, that you have to realize when we're learning, and we don't usually spend too much time thinking about this, but when you're learning, it's part of what we say in Birkas Torah. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving us the Torah. This is Hashem's Torah. This is Hashem's word. This is the Ratzon of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's the will of a Kadosh Baruch Hu personified in letters and sentences that we can understand as humans, as Jews, right? So, but don't think that you can become overly familiar with it, like, to treat it with in a even in a mundane fashion. So you have to realize that these are the words of Kadosh Baruch Hu, both the Torah Shebiksav and the Torah Shebal Peh. This is Kodesh Kadoshim. This is very holy, very sanctified, very special words that we're learning and that we are involving ourselves with. So don't think that they should you can become overly familiar, chummy, as they say. Yeah, Roy, chummy. Don't become chummy with the Torah. No, you have to realize this is the word of Kadosh Baruch Hu. You have to treat it with a certain respect. So that's what it means here. And this is very difficult. Sometimes a person gets involved with learning, and he says various different things that are sometimes even not very becoming to speak about the Torah. He doesn't understand this, he doesn't understand that, but we have to remember what Chazal say. If we don't understand these things, the Chesaron, the problem is not with the Torah, the problem is with you. You haven't spent enough time properly understanding what the Torah is trying to teach you. If you would spend a proper amount of time about what the Torah is teaching you, then you'd obviously understand the true wisdom and the holiness of the words that you're learning. But a lot of times we don't give proper thought to what we're learning and try to develop the thoughts that we have about the Torah to the extent that we appreciate the true truth and perfection of the Torah. Right, so don't become too chummy with the Torah. Even though you might be learning with it, you might be learning a lot day and night, you're learning day and night with it. Don't think that you are very, not to become over familiar with this. As just an example, I'll give you an example. In the Beis HaMikdash, in the Beis HaMikdash, you may remember the Mishnayos speaking about the various different parts of the Beis HaMikdash. So there was a certain gateway, a door that led to the Heichal, led from the Azara where they had the Mizbeach, and the Kohanim would be there, and on the steps the Levim would be there as well. Then you had a door, right, and that was the main door. And on the sides of the main door there were two other doors, one to the left, one to the right, smaller doors, two smaller doors. If I'm not mistaken, the door on the right hand side was always closed. It was always locked. Always locked. So the question is, what kind of door is there that is always locked? So one of the explanations is that there's a door here and it's always locked. Why? What that's supposed to remind the Kohanim. Now you might appreciate this more than us because you'll hopefully be walking around in the Beis HaMikdash. They'll be there for your edification, right? So the Kohanim, they come in and day out. They're doing the Avos in the Beis HaMikdash. So the door is there. Don't think that you have rights of ownership over here. Don't think that this place is yours. You're here to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's just like every Jew in the world, but you're being in the Beis HaMikdash is to serve the Kadosh Baruch Hu through whatever means, offering the korbanos, all the other things which are necessary to do for the offering of a korban and other things as well. But these things are being done in terms of service to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and your purpose and your ability and your permission to be here in the Beis HaMikdash is only because you're serving Kadosh Baruch Hu. And don't think you can now become familiar and have ownership rights over what you're here for. No, there's a door here. Remember, it's always locked. No one ever in the world ever would pass through that door. It's always locked. It's always locked because to teach you this lesson, to remember constantly that as much as you may be familiar and comfortable in the Beis HaMikdash doing your avoda, don't become too comfortable. Don't think it becomes yours and that you are the owner here. You're not the owner. You're only a visitor, a guest. You're only a worker serving Kadosh Baruch. Yep. So that's very similar over here. You think, okay, we have a big mitzvah to learn Torah, and we need to spend our time learning Torah very much. but don't become too familiar with the Torah as to think that you're now buddy-buddy with the Torah. No, always keep a little bit of a distance to remind ourselves this is Hashem Torah, and He's allowing us through His goodness to learn His Torah. And we shouldn't get the idea and the feeling that we are learning it with some type of a personal ownership right over it. No, we have no ownership right over the Torah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pass the torch. I'm gonna have to leave now.
Ooh, okay, we'll miss you, Mayor. We're gonna miss
Okay,
you.
have a good day
Okay,
now,
so-
everyone.
Thank you, Atzlacher. We'll
You
see you
will.
tomorrow, Mitzvah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Hope it
you.
all goes well and you don't get hurt.
Oh, you're on the way out also, Lauren?
No, just
Ah, oh, okay. I thought you were on the way out as well. Okay, so let's see. Who would like to take over? Eliezer Tzvi or Lou or Roy? Who's interested in? Okay. Any volunteers? No volunteers?
No.
No volunteers, right? What's Rabbi Fairman gonna say? He says no volunteers. Okay. So anyway, we're in the middle of Kuf Aleph. Right. It says Russell Mashena Choshev Esatzma Kirugulimo. Rather, what it means, Shalom Hagis Libo Batamid, or you shouldn't get too overly familiar, too chummy with the words of Torah that you're learning. And as it says over here, yeah, as it says over here. Rak medaber im arusosoy anekbedes she'ena makirin adai. It should be, right? It should be when you're learning the words of Torah, it should be kimedaber im arusosoy hamechubedes she'ena makir adai. It should be like the person he's speaking with his fiancée that he's not yet so familiar with. Remember those days when maybe you went out on a shidduch with your Rebbitzins, and those dates there, you know, that you were very, very careful how you would speak to her. You thought about the words you were going to say. You didn't want to come out with something that was lacking intelligence or lacking interest or lacking propriety, right? You were very careful about how you spoke to your eventually your Rebbitzins over there, right? You probably, if I test you, you could probably go back to those and replay some of those conversations even today. No, yes, maybe Roy, yes.
remember a thing.
Excuse me.
I don't remember a thing that we said.
Well, whatever you said, it must have worked.
Yeah, it was about 52 years ago, so 51 years
Baruch
ago.
Hashem, very nice, Baruch Hashem, right? I mean, those were golden words you were talking, right? Golden words. I'm sure. So that's what it says over here. Where you shouldn't get over comfortable with the words that you're learning of the Torah, even though you might be involved with learning Torah Yom V'Layla every day. Nevertheless, it should be kimedaber im arusaso. He's like he's speaking with his fiancée, hanechabedes, his honorable fiancée, she'enu makira adayin. He doesn't yet really recognize her well. He doesn't really know her so well, and so he's very careful to always make the very best impression. V'lahachi Shasikbo, and likewise over here, when a person's involved with learning the words of Torah, Yeshlo Boshus Panim Misholeach Machshavosov Chavshim B'inyanim Ha'amunim Amunas Mitzvos Shalamid Mimeno. And Yeshlo Boshus Panim, there should be for him some type of a embarrassment Mishaloach Makshavo, so to simply throw out his thoughts, chafshim, for freely, b'inyani ha'omonos va'mitzvos, shalomid memenu, and in terms of the foundations of our faith and the mitzvahs that he's learning from it, right? Shouldn't, when you're dealing with the words of Torah, you shouldn't just throw out words, what it means this or what it means that, what you think. No, you should think very deeply into what the words are really, truthfully trying to teach us. Because a lot of times the first impressions, when it comes to learning Torah, the first impressions are not always the correct and lasting impressions that we have. Okay. She'ein haseikel anushi yokol lahasiga. Right. The concepts and the mitzvahs of the Torah, seikel anushi, human reason, right, cannot approach them. Right? The words of Torah are far beyond the understanding that we properly should have of the Torah. Meaning, it's sort of like it's sort of paradoxical. It's sort of an enigma. If you remember what that word enigma is, they don't come across too many enigmas these days, do they, Roy? No more enigma. No, huh?
Each of us is an enigma.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. That's right. Right? We're all enigmas, right? So the enigma in learning Torah is that on one hand, it's the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's his manifest ratzon in physical form, in words and letters and sentences, right? And that's the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu manifest for us. Now, and that's very hard to approach. What do we have? What do we have to do with such a thing like that? That's part of what the Malachim, when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai to Mekabel the Torah, the Malachim said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no, you don't give it to this Moshe Rabbeinu Basar B'Dam. You're already giving the Torah Kadosh and the Holy Torah to Basar B'Dam. He's Basar B'Dam. He has no rights to the Torah, right? So he said, the Malachim said, give it to us. We want the Torah. We want the Torah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, if you want the Torah, if you want Klal Yisrael to have the Torah, you better defend yourself. Better defend yourself. They have a very good claim against you. That the Torah is ruchnius. Torah is holy, sanctified. So what are we doing giving it to Basar B'Dam in a physical world with all the various physical shortcomings that come through being physical? What are we doing that for? Maybe it's better the Torah stays up there in Shemayim for the Malachim. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Malachim, okay, let's take a look. What's it say in the Torah? Keep it avei. Okay, so it says you honor your father and mother. He asked the Malachim, tell me, you guys have fathers and mothers around here? He says, no. Okay, so it can't be for you. And he went down the list. He went down in the list. Oh, you tell me, no signo, you shouldn't be thieves. Tell me, you and Malach, you have things to steal from each other? He said, no. Okay. Another one for Moshe Rabbeinu. Right, he went down the list. So finally, Moshe Rabbeinu convinced even the Malachim that the Torah was for us, not for them. So they asked the question on this Gemara, on this Medrash is asked, what did the Malachim claim? What was their claim? Didn't they know that what it said in the Torah was kibbut avim, lo signov? They obviously must have known all those things said in the Torah, and they obviously must have known those things can't apply to them. So what was their idea that this Torah should stay by them? So the answer that I think this is the Radvaz gives, is that really the Torah is many, many different facets has many different dimensions and different facets. And they, the Malachim, were making the claim that the Torah that they have is a different type of a dimension of Torah, a different type of a facet of Torah, and the spectrum of what the Torah means and what the Torah is. The Malachim have a whole different understanding of what those words mean. So therefore, they want to have us that insight into the various different aspects of Torah that it should be given to them and not to us, because they would be learning Torah in a different way than us. But Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, the basic Pashat Pshat of the Torah is for us. So Kadosh Baruch Hu was eventually agreeable to that. And as we know, as they say, the rest is history, as they say, right, Roy? The rest is history. We said Nasa v'nishma, we will makabel the Torah. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave the Torah to us, and that's where it is up until this very moment. Oh. So, yeah. Right, so a person should be very careful from being too overly familiar with the Torah, because it's really something which is way beyond us and we shouldn't become too familiar with. Okay, but Kamosha Kasim, Moshe Rabbeinu Ava Shalom. It says by Moshe Rabbeinu Ava Shalom, Yaser Panav, Ki Yira Mahabit El Elokim. You should cover your face. He wore a veil over his face, because you should be fearful from the one who gazes upon a Kadosh Baruch Hu, supposedly. The fact that the Torah is there by Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Torah has this aspect of Kadosh Baruch Hu, so you should be fearful, respectful of he who is so close and so involved with Torah, even Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Fine, a good time to spot. Then we'll stop here. We'll just make a note that we're in Kuf base.
I noticed that the Sephardi,
Yes.
I've done in Sephardi shuls a few times.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that when they get called up to the Torah, they put a veil between themselves and the Torah when they're saying the brachas.
Yes. Yes.
It occurs to me that this is not, maybe well, I understood it was so that they could, so it would be seen that they weren't reading from the Torah, these brachas. Well, we sort of looked to one side, we were supposed to. But it also occurred to me from what we just said now that it's with a certain amount of trepidation that they're saying the brachas, because they're basically asking permission to enter the Torah. So that they're sort of not taking it for granted.
Exactly. That's exactly what the message is over here. Should not take it granted. Should not become overly familiar with the Torah that you're learning. Treat it with with the respect that's due to it. That's right, and that's very important a very important realization, and something to try and work on.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbi Furst.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Eliezer Tzvi. And we'll be starting Mr. Brewer shortly. Have a good day. I'll have you tomorrow. Bye-bye.